Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, and I will be hosting our service today for June 21st, 2020, with our music director, Gabriel Hernandez, and our pianist, Rebecca Prizznick. We also have a guest preacher today, my colleague, the Reverend Kimberley Debus. Kimberley works as a community minister based in New York's Capital Region, inspiring an artful and art-filled faith. She consults with congregations and religious professionals and provides sabbatical ministry support throughout the denomination. She was a learning fellow at the Church of the Larger Fellowship and has served congregations on the North Fork of Long Island and in Key West, Florida. And we are delighted to have Rev. Kimberley with us today, preaching a sermon entitled The Art of Meaning. This congregation, Beacon UU congregation in Flagstaff, Arizona, is a welcoming congregation. And especially during Pride Month, we want to say that we are spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door. And here we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and for relevant religious exploration, very much outside the box. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love and a responsible search for truth. Kimberley will be lighting the chalice for us in a moment, and she has some opening words.
My name is the Reverend Kimberley Debus, and I invite you to breathe deeply as we enter our time of worship with these words from Gretchen Haley. Let's not go building new walls around our hearts. We have already enough that keeps us from each other, enough that keeps us from ourselves and the knowing of all that we have done, all that has been done to us and for us, the losses we sustained, the love we avoided, the life we held too tight. For this hour, we practice showing up with a willingness to see, to be seen, to remember ourselves whole and still becoming better. To believe it is okay to not be okay, that we are loved even when we feel unlovable, that we belong even when the ground comes out from under us. To be for each other a surprising generosity, a sudden sweetness, a sign of hope, the start of a new day. Together we can be this brave. I invite you now to light a chalice or candle near you as I light this one. Come, let us worship together.
Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, 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 Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, 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 Gaudeamus Hodie. Gaudeamus, Gaudeamus Hodie.
Please join me in reciting the mission and covenant of Beacon. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought, belief, and builds a just and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and kindness. Thus do we covenant. Thank you.
Each week in our service, congregants are invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. I didn't receive any specific joys and sorrows this week. However, I will drop some stones for some joys and sorrows that we all seem to be sharing right now. I'll put a stone in for all of us who continue to endure the restrictions and limitations of the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly those who have been struck with the virus or have family members they've been caring for, or are frontline workers still helping to care for those who have become ill in hospitals and elsewhere. This is for you. For members of our congregation who are undergoing medical procedures or dealing with long-term treatment for various ailments and difficulties, or have family members who are, we are thinking of you. We are always with you, and this is for you. For our country that continues to move through this latest round of incidences of systemic racism in our country and are attempting to protest peacefully for change, this stone is for you. For all the joys that we hold, all the ways we continue to find joy and happiness throughout the day, even in this strange and challenging time, this is a stone for all of us to seek joyful moments wherever we can find them. And finally, for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too private to share, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And now I invite you to come into a comfortable position with your feet on the floor, your arms uncrossed, your eyes closed, putting down books and phones or anything else you might be holding, and just come into a time of intentional breathing. So I'm going to invite you to breathe in 4 beats slowly through your nose and 4 beats out slowly through your mouth in a steady stream. Lately, we've been hearing so much the phrase, I can't breathe, and it has been related to the death of people of color in this country. But for many of us, we feel a sense that we can't breathe, but we can. It really is our portable, emotional, spiritual first aid. So just intentionally breathe. I'll breathe with you. Feel what happens in your body, in your spirit, what happens around your heart as you create spaciousness with your intentional breath. Breathe and allow. While you breathe, I offer these words by Susan Van Dresser in a service that looks at creativity and art. Let us sing the magic of imagination, by which we know one another and learn the lives of eras gone by. Let us sing the magic of creation, by which we build a world of our soul and teach its wisdom to others, young and old. Let us sing the magic of our lives together, holding and shaping by the movement of breath from heart to lung, all new life that is to come. May we go singing. May we go creating. May we go with magic on our fingertips to co-create with the spirit of life. Blessed be. Let us be silent together. Blessed be.
Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
Our reading is a sonnet by Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick and a Unitarian. In placid hours well pleased we dream of many a brave unbodied scheme, but form to lend, pulsed life create, what unlike things must meet and mate, a flame to melt, a wind to freeze, sad patience, joyous energies, humility, yet pride and scorn, instinct and study, love and hate, audacity, reverence, these must mate and fuse with Jacob's mystic heart, to wrestle with the angel, art. My life flows on in endless song. Endless song. Not endless chatter, not endless Zoom meetings, not endless laundry, although, well, that's real. But endless song. Something creative, artistic, something beyond words, something that transforms us. We all know that song or film or play or painting that touches our souls. It might be the song a parent sang to us when we were scared, or the scene of a film that speaks our truth, or a sculpture in a favorite museum that is permanently etched into our memory. If I were to ask each of you to describe a moment in worship that has stuck with you, chances are it will be a piece of music or a story or skit or some object or painting. When we think about art that way, they stop being simply objects, a painting, a song, a play. And as musician Brian Eno suggests, they become triggers for our experiences that transport us to a time of joy or comfort or ease. Suddenly, it is well with our souls because of art's power, which is mysterious. We can't know for sure what moves us when we see a famous play or a painting or a dance, but we know the one that captures our attention and makes us wonder and lets us consider our humanness and our connection to the divine and our profound dance with life and our interconnectedness with the world. In fact, we are so moved by the arts, we create artistic places to house and engage them, from the Guggenheim to the Sydney Opera House. We are so moved by the arts that despite our austere Puritan forebears, we cannot help but put art in our places of worship, from stained glass in the windows to paintings on the walls. We are so moved by art, we write songs about art like Mona Lisa, and songs about artists like Vincent, and even entire musicals about art like Sunday in the Park with George. So what is it about art? Poet Elizabeth Alexander writes that art replaces the light that is lost when the day fades, the moment passes, the evanescent extraordinary makes its quicksilver. Art tries to capture that which we know leaves us as we move in and out of each other's lives, as we all must eventually leave this earth. Great artists know that shadow work always against the dying light, but always knowing that the day brings new light, and that the ocean which washes away all traces on the sand leaves us a new canvas with each wave. That shadow and light isn't just out in the natural world. It is the essence of humanity, and the arts help us see this evanescent in ourselves and each other, and it helps us tell our human stories. Even the most abstract painting is telling some sort of story. And story is what moves us. As Jonathan Gottschalk, author of The Storytelling Animal, writes, story continues to fulfill its ancient function of binding society by reinforcing a set of common values and strengthening the ties of common culture. It defines the people. It tells us what is laudable and what is contemptible. It subtly and constantly encourages us to be decent instead of decadent. Story is the grease and glue of society. By encouraging us to behave well, story reduces social friction while uniting people around common values. Story, he concludes, makes us one. The human mind was shaped for story so that it could be shaped by story. Science has shown us that when we hear or watch or read stories, not only are the language or visual processing parts in our brain activated, but any other area in our brain that we would use when experiencing the events of the story are activated too. As science writer Leah Woodrich notes, whenever we hear a story, we want to relate it to one of our existing experiences. That's why metaphor works so well with us. While we are busy searching for a similar experience in our brains, we activate a part called the insula, which helps us relate to that same experience of pain or joy or disgust. Storytelling happens throughout the arts, whether television, film, books, dance, sculpture, stand-up, or painting. Stories emerge. Our stories, human stories. Sometimes joyful stories, but oftentimes hard, tragic stories. Art helps us tell the hard human stories in ways that address the untenable without our knowing it. Art brings us up against things we have a hard time facing in real time, but never says explicitly, here's the scary part. Rather, art provides a structure that allows us to peel off layers and go just a little bit deeper each time we engage it. This is especially important as we encounter the stories of those who are not like us. But artistic structures help make space so we can approach the difficult stories sideways. Art creates a shared experience through which we can connect and understand and empathize in relative safety. As playwright George Bernard Shaw quipped, without art, the crudeness of reality would make the world unbearable. Or the words of acting teacher Stella Adler, life beats down and crushes the soul, and art reminds you that you have one. And right now, we need that reminder more than ever. Dr. Kimberley Norris, an authority on confinement and reintegration at the University of Tasmania, says that we've moved from the first quarter of isolation, a time of panic buying and confusion, to the second quarter, the honeymoon, where it felt novel and different as we learned new technology and enjoyed working in pajamas and learned who delivered. But now we're in the third quarter, a time of loneliness, a time of hollow-eyed stares, odd fixations, and brooding resentments. According to studies of how long humans can survive in space, moods drop after the halfway point of a mission. And when there's unclarity about when a time of isolation will end, it is even harder because while there seem to be glimmers of hope, in our case a seemingly flattening curve, the uncertainty of how long this will actually last means that this third quarter could last a really long time. Our moods are suffering. We're getting snippy and intolerant. We're looking into the future and wondering when and if we can celebrate birthdays and holidays and go on vacations and attend concerts and return to worship services in the same room with one another. And those long looks at the calendar bring a sense of futility. We are in what is called a liminal space, an in-between time. And we're not good at these kinds of spaces, not for very long anyway. Our lives right now flow on in endless anxiety and fear and frustration. A fear and anxiety and frustration that is only further amplified by the protests and the state of our world outside of the pandemic. We need art. We need the art of theater being streamed from Broadway and the West End and other locations. We need the art in museums available in virtual tours so we can spend minutes or hours in the Louvre or the British Museum or the Met. We need the art of our musicians who are holding online concerts, sometimes weekly. We need the art of our storytellers, books, movies, television, poetry, even story times, all available in our homes or streaming or otherwise online. We need the art of our natural world to immerse in gardens and landscapes. And we need to not just view it, but to make it. The truth is we are all artists. Process theology suggests that just as God is both creator and creating, we too are both a part of creation and are creators. And the moments of creation are the true reality. Feminist theologian Carter Hayward suggests that God is nothing other than the eternally creative source of our relational power, our common strength, a God whose movement is to empower, bringing us into our own together, a God whose name in history is love. And I suspect some of you are there thinking, I'm not an artist. Perhaps you could never coordinate your feet properly in dance class and you gave up thinking you're a klutz. Perhaps you had a music teacher who suggested it would be best if you just mouthed the words. Perhaps you had an art teacher who fussed because you used the wrong colors. Perhaps you had an English teacher who said your story was uninteresting and your poem made no sense. Perhaps, like me, you had a director who told you you ruined the play because you really couldn't act. We get these horrible messages, often in childhood, that keep us from creating, that keep us from breathing in the smell of paint and makeup and sweat and graphite, that keep us from entering the world and telling our stories through the act of creation. I encourage you, I implore you to create. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be for public consumption. Write bad poetry that you burn in the grill. Draw awkward pictures on the margins of your notepads. Sing off key in the shower. As the famous quote says, dance as if no one is watching. You see, engaging in the creation of art, whatever form it takes, gets our creative selves energized to tackle other tasks. Whether it be homeschooling our children for the foreseeable future, caring for an aging parent, or staying safe and healthy as an essential worker, or more, going onto the front lines of protests or supporting protesters, or teaching young minds, or dismantling racism, or resisting hate, or reversing the effects of climate change. And let me be clear, art and justice are not separate. After the death of Aretha Franklin, Dr. Takaya Amin said, "Please, can we understand her singing and her activism as one and the same, as parts of each other? Can we resist the urge of seeing the creative and performative as somehow separate from the political and impactful?" It is all connected. Allowing yourself to be a little artistic will allow you to creatively draw the circle of love ever wider, to dismantle racism, to side with love in the face of hate and oppression, to care for the planet and all the people on it. And in the process, you will discover a new connection to a part of yourself, that part that reminds us that we are incredibly human and deeply connected to one another and to the divine. We can't let our anxiety about art and the old messages of perfectionism stop us more than ever when the world feels out of control and the problems we face are so big they are paralyzing. We need to create. I close with these words from the Reverend Micah Busey, these words of encouragement. Dear curious and creative potential prophets, we are ready for you. Let's be clear, art doesn't immediately change things. We have to wrap our brains around that lest we get too full of ourselves. Art doesn't stop violence or erase pain or eradicate evil. It doesn't turn back time or protect bodies. Art doesn't do big things, and that's why no one will sustainably fund it. Art is actually a very small thing that does very small things. It's a gathering of tiny revolutions that sustain the larger ones. Its power comes from being minuscule and undetectable. Art doesn't stop the violence, but it starts the questioning of violence. Art doesn't erase the pain, but it names the pain. Art doesn't eradicate evil, but it tells the queer stories of another way. It stops time and protects souls because its power is microscopic, and the empire only knows how to deal with things it thinks it sees. You will start to create something today because you feel galvanized, and then you will hate it tomorrow, and then you will think you have nothing to offer, and then you will stop creating for a few days, and then something teensy will spark, and then the whole cycle will start again. This is the reality of tiny things in a world that only responds to gigantic, blustery, bloated things. This is the plight of prophecy. And it truly sucks. But my cat just jumped on the keyboard and typed out "nigd." And if my cat, who stays pretty apolitical most days, is taking this opportunity to use the devastation of this time and create something out of it. I can only imagine the astonishing things you have up your sleeves. Amen.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles to sing away the light, ever softly circles to sing away the light, ever dancing serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
The spirit of generosity, gratitude, and abundance lives at Beacon. Each week, whether we are together or apart, we take an offering for the support of Beacon and our community partners. During this time of virtual worship, we invite you to go to our website and make an online donation securely through the Vanco application. You can do that on our homepage at beaconuu.com, or send a check to us at Beacon at our Flagstaff address with offering in the note. Either way, we are so grateful for your generosity and support, especially during this challenging time. Again, there are so many things, so many rituals that we have when we're together in our sanctuary, and we've continued many of those in whatever manner we can. Usually, at this point, we come together, we hold hands, we stand in a circle, and we feel the power of our community. And even though we are not physically together, we are Beacon, always connected. So let us imagine ourselves in community, holding hands, as Kimberley offers us our benediction. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
We close with these words from the Reverend Jim Keat. Creativity is not a thing. It's the way you approach and engage everything. Creativity is not a product that can be bottled and sold. It's simultaneously the fuel and subversion of capitalism. Creativity is not an activity that you start and stop. It's a mindset, a filter, a way on which you see the world. So go in love, go in joy, go in peace, go and be creative.
Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles return into their faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright.